What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and so I'm making my post day 2 of the draft video for you guys. There's definitely a lot to talk about here. You know, obviously we had made a trade. So look, I'm gonna be upfront with you guys. You know, yesterday after day 1, I came away and I was like, okay, you know, it was a solid pick. I didn't want to chase like a quarterback or anything like that. I didn't want to give away draft capital because we had, you know, limited draft capital this year. And frankly, next year as well. We had some extra for next year going into the draft. But if we trade that away, then, you know, what was the point in, you know, trading away Tannehill and Quinn and blah, 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 right? To accrue that draft capital just to give it away to go up and chase this guy now. And then if you want to take another quarterback high next year, like, it just doesn't make sense, right? So I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to chase a quarterback. I was glad that they passed on Dwayne Haskins at number 13. I didn't want to take one there either because I think that, you know, the trenches are where we need to focus. It's our biggest area of need. That was one of the reasons why I did like the pick, because he's a high quality defensive tackle in this draft. You know, quality or draft status wise, he's probably, you know, a mid to late round. So first round. But there, and the thing is though is so, you know, I had said yesterday, and I've been saying for a while, that for me, what I would have done is, and so, you know, throughout this, my evaluation or whatever, I'm going to tell you everything that happened, what they did, and then, you know, what I would have done differently and the things, you know, the reasons why. Because frankly, I'm actually pretty disappointed with it all overall now after day 2. But anyway, so, you know, we had the 13th pick. They didn't chase. They stayed where they were. Personally, I would have moved back at, you know, a few spots, probably down to about 17. That would have been 4 different, right? I talked about it before. You know, and then I would have taken Garrett Bradbury, the center, who fills a major position of need, and he's one of the highest quality offensive linemen in the draft, right? And so that's what I would have done. But maybe they didn't have a trade partner. I don't know. We ended up making a trade in the second round. Maybe they could have, you know, pushed harder, made more calls. Maybe they could have got it done. I don't know. That's all, you know, it's stuff I don't have information on, so I can't really say. But ideally, I definitely would have traded back. Now, here's the thing, though. Considering the fact that there was a major, like, rush on defensive linemen in the first half of the first round, you know, all of the best quality, like, okay, so I'm not trying to take anything away from Christian Wilkins, but, you know, there were definitely, like, if the board would have fallen differently, there could have been other higher quality defensive linemen available to us at 13. But since there weren't, and since there were a run on defensive linemen, I still would have taken Garrett Bradbury at 13 instead of taking Christian Wilkins, because there was still the best offensive lineman in the draft there at 13, but there was, like, you know, Christian Wilkins would have probably been ranked like the 3rd or 4th defensive tackle or whatever, or like, you know, 5th or 6th defensive lineman overall, right? So value wise, the value would have been both major positions of need, but we do also have 2 other very young defensive tackles that we drafted recently in Vincent Taylor and Devon Godshaw, who did really good things for us. You know, he seems like a smart kid. He's got a lot of versatility. He should be able to play well in the hybrid 4-3-3-4 scheme that we're supposed to be employing, but the value could have been placed. We could have just gotten better value overall if we would have gone with the offensive line, even at 13. And then instead, you know, Garrett Bradbury got taken at 18 by the Minnesota Vikings. So even if they couldn't have found a trade partner to accrue more draft capital and then, you know, fill a major you know, hole on the offensive line, which, you know, everybody cares about the quarterback so much, but our offensive line is, you know, so decimated and thin that we need to shore that up. You know, I made comments, you know, yesterday from the commentary the hosts of the draft yesterday were talking about that. They're like, it starts in the trenches. You got to have, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is, you got to have a offensive line. And that's what I've been saying for such a long time. So it doesn't matter what quarterback we have. We need to address that. And they're failing at it. Right? So they could have gotten one of the best offensive linemen in the draft at that position. Again, like if the board fell differently, if there wasn't a run on defensive linemen, then maybe you could have gotten one of the best defensive linemen in the draft. But then instead you get one of the you get the 5th to 8th best defensive lineman, which is still great, but you could have gotten like the number 1 to number 3 offensive linemen. And then it makes it worse because of then what happened today. Because then by the time we even got close to our pick, there was a major run on offensive linemen. And so there weren't any, of the good high quality, and obviously the top tier ones came off the board in the second half in the first round. And so then by the time they got to us, we didn't have like shit for choices at offensive line, right? So then next thing you know, we have the number 48th pick in the second round and the 116th pick in the third round. So then next thing you know, there have been reports recently for the past few days, especially about us possibly trading for Josh Rosen. Okay, well, they did it. They gave away the 48th and the 116th pick to get the number 62 pick, right? That's in the third round. And then we traded our 116th pick for the 202nd pick, right? Something about that seems off though, because we only had, I'll have to check on that. And this is, I took tons of notes as it was going, but there were a lot of conflicting reports, so I will make sure that I get that for sure in one of my later videos. But as it was reported, we gave up our second round pick, number 48, and pick number 116, which was our original third round pick, for the number 62nd pick and the number 202nd pick. That's not right though, because 202, that wouldn't even be today. I don't think that, I think that one's probably just not even there. I don't think that last one has anything to do with it. For sure, we gave away our second round pick, and we got the 62nd pick. And then, but we also did, so I remember what it ended up being. We also gave away one of our 5th round picks for 2020. So we get Josh Rosen. So essentially we get Josh Rosen after we decided to pay Ryan Fitzpatrick $10 million. We also have Luke Falk and Jake Ruddock on the roster, right? So we get Josh Rosen. We give away our second round pick and one of our 5th round picks from next year, right? And then, so now what? Right? So as it stands now for 2020, we are going to have a lot of picks and a lot of cap space. That is the upside, right? That is the upside to this. But now we have Ryan Fitzpatrick on a 2-year, $11 million deal, right? Josh Rosen on a 3-year, $6.24 million. So he does end up being cheap for those 3 years. So that's a plus. Luke Falk on a 3-year, $1.98 million. Jake Ruddock on a 1-year, $645 million. I'm sorry, 645. That's not right. 645K, right? So those guys are super cheap, but you already had a couple young guys, right, that were projects in Luke Falk and Jake Ruddock. They're super cheap. You got one of them for 3 years, one of them for 1 year. You got your veteran, right? You decide to get rid of Ryan Tannehill, but you bring in your veteran. They definitely can't draft a quarterback now. That would be ridiculous, and they would just be wasting the draft capital at that point, because they essentially used their second round pick, which I believe is way too high. Well, I would have said it no higher than the 3rd round, but definitely too high to take a quarterback. And, look, I mean, at the end of the day, so there was a report I saw that Gase was the one who didn't want to take Josh Rosen and was basically the reason why they, didn't try and make a play for him last year. But Greer kind of wanted him, so that's why the trade got done now. And I know everybody's going to be like, oh, well, that means that it was a good thing because we hate Gase, right? All you Gase-hating Dolphin fans, right? I know that's what you're going to think. But anyway, but the thing is, though, is last year it's to be fair, he was under pressure a lot last year, and so I don't hold that against him, to be completely fair. But he played in 14 games. He was the 10th overall pick, right? Played in 14 games, had 11 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and a 55.2 completion percentage, right? So when you and then the Cardinals were so willing to get rid of him, right? And use a first round pick this year to get another quarterback. So that should tell you something too. So when you take all of this information and all this context and you put, why are we doing this? Why did we do that? Why? What's the point? It's a waste. It's a complete waste. And so there's one of three things that could happen here. Either he could just completely ball out and be your dude, right? Which, if you're being realistic, is highly unlikely. But if that's the case, then you're paying Ryan Fitzpatrick for absolutely fucking no reason. And he's still going to be playing behind a shoddy offensive line, at least right now, as we can expect, a shoddy offensive line at best. And so what do you think? He's under pressure last year. He put up, bad numbers. So what are you going to expect that he's going to do this year if he has to play? Right? And like, again, you already have two young guys that are really cheap. Why even do this? What's the point? And so they gave away our second round pick. They used our second round pick on this, right? And then gave away one of, our fifth round picks for next year. So, but, to be fair and to make sure all the facts are out there accurately, next year we have a lot of picks. We have like 14 or 15 picks. That's if you include the projected compensatory picks that we would get for all of the, guys that we lost this year in free agency. So next year we have a first round pick. We have 2 second round picks, our normal one and then one that we got from the Saints. We have 2 third round picks. The normal one, the one that we got in the Juwan James trade. That would be a compensatory pick. Excuse me. Juwan James wasn't traded. It would be a compensatory pick that we would get for losing Juwan James in free agency. That would be the second one. So the normal third round and then a compensatory pick for him. We have 2 in the fourth, the normal one, and then 1 from the Ryan Tannehill trade to the Titans. And then we did have 2 fifth round picks, but we gave one away in the Josh Rosen trade, which would be probably our normal 5th round pick. And then we might get a compensatory pick for Cameron Wake leaving in free agency. Now these are just projected, so we don't really know. We probably will get them, those 2, but we don't actually know. We have 2 in the 6th, the normal one, and then the one from the Quinn trade to the Cowboys, and then we have 2 in the 7th, the normal one, and then and a Jordan Lucas trade to the Chiefs, right? So we do have a lot of picks next year and a lot of cap space. But if we suck for the next few years, and then if this all goes awry and the coaching staff gets fired and we're rebuilding in 3 years because they made bad decisions, then what does that really matter? And you're just wasting, years of these young, core guys of your team if you're just going to go out there and just fail and fail and fail. Now, obviously that's not a guarantee, but I mean, these moves are just not smart, right? And obviously that's my perspective, but these moves are just not smart. Like, they could do so much better. Like, I'm trying to give them credit for, some of the good things. Like I said, yesterday I was feeling good about it, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, anyway, so then in the 3rd round, finally, we get to pick somebody, and they do address the offensive line, which is great. Michael Dieter, He's a guard out of Oklahoma. I will read a little bit about him, but again, you know, if they would have done things differently, they could have gotten in the first round. They could have gotten, you know, one of the top offensive linemen in the draft. In the second round, they could have gotten, you know, a solid defensive lineman, or maybe one of the top cornerbacks, because that's the third biggest need on this team. And all of like the best cornerbacks were still there. We could have either gotten like one of the best cornerbacks, or, you know, a solid defensive lineman, pass rusher, or defensive tackle, or maybe like a hybrid defensive lineman linebacker for the hybrid scheme. And then in the third round, we probably even could have gotten, I think, Will Grier. I think we would have been able to like pick up Will Grier or something, the quarterback, right? I'm not 100% on that. I'd have to look and see how the board ended up falling, but I think we would have picked before he got picked, and we would have actually been able to like take Will Grier, right, to satisfy the quarterback need. But we ended up taking Michael Dieter, and who knows, maybe he can develop and be a good player. But here's some a scouting report. This is from Matt Miller of, what is this report? From Bleacher Report. So this is, he just kind of, you know, highlighted some of his strengths and weaknesses. Now, obviously, this is according to this guy, but you know, we took him in the third. And like I said, all the best offensive linemen for sure. The first and second round guys were gone before this. Experienced starter who has played left tackle, guard, and center at a high level for the Badgers, so that's good. Did I say he's from Oklahoma? That's not right. Who are the Badgers? Anyway, I'll get back to that. So that's good. He does have versatility. We need that, but then, so where's Zach Stirrup and where's Jesse Davis gonna play? Because he's a guard, right? You're gonna have Daniel Kilgore at center. Chris Reed, I think, is probably gonna be left guard. So you're gonna kick Jesse Davis out to right tackle. Is he gonna play? I mean, who knows? Who knows, right? Technique is refined with good timing, good accuracy on punches, and the leverage to get underneath the pads of defenders. Solid finisher who will dump players in the running game, can turn on a mean streak and lock under the pads of a defender and easily drive him off the ball with good initial quickness and power. Sustains his blocks well and doesn't let defenders free easily. So the upsides to this guy, from what I've been hearing from all the reports, is he's kind of a mauler, so that's a good thing. And if he can develop, that would be great. You know, but he is a lot less polished, a lot less refined, and he's definitely not, you know, as high quality or caliber as we could have gotten in the first round, you know, for the offensive line. So we'll see. So again, you know, like, we could have had a first round offensive lineman. They take a third, and the rest of the guys they brought in the offseason were, you know, career backups, very, you know, or practice squad guys, middling guys, right? Guys that failed in the NFL and didn't even make it here. You know, whatever. No, that was some of the other positions, like the edge defender we brought in from the AAF, Jaron Elliott, I think it was. Anyway, so, but weaknesses: surrounded by NFL caliber players on the Wisconsin, that's where he's from. Offensive line who covered up his flaws. Stiff, tall player. He's 6'5" at 309, who struggles to sink his hips and bend at the knees to effectively move in space. And we're going to need, you know, guards who can pull, you know, so if he doesn't have, you know, the you know, lateral movement and the hip movement and stuff to be able to do that, that could be, you know, he could be great in the run game, but if we only have him in there for the run game, what's that? What good is that, right? And the run game is going to be intensive. Like I said, it's going to require guards to be able to pull and do things like that. Gets caught back bending and lunging to attack as a blocker. Robotic mover who struggles to reach the second level while in the running game. So that's not good. Might not be a great fit in a zone heavy blocking scheme, which I don't know, because, you know, Chad O'Shea is totally new, but I'd be willing to bet that we'll probably have some. I mean, we have Kenyon Drake, Kalen Ballage. I mean, you know, they can do some hard running up the middle, but, they're more, zone, outside, kind of guys. They're more, quicker guys. I mean, Balaj is pretty bulky, and I think, Drake put on some weight last year or whatever, but, is more, making guys miss and so on and so forth. So, I mean, we'll see. His agility is below average when asked to pull or when recovering against quick defenders. So, I mean, that's not good. That's not good. Anyway, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I just, like, I look, I don't know. I know there's a lot of people, like, a lot of people are super focused, like hyper focused on next year, that we have a gang of picks. But if we don't have a good draft this year, the first year, and we have a bad year, like in the sense that we don't win a lot of games because we have a first year head coach, a whole new staff, we had this massive purge, blah, 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 blah. Like, they're setting themselves up for failure. And not just now, but later. And then again, man, if the first 3 years don't go well and, everybody starts clamoring for, change, then we're just going to be in this massive rebuild once again. And then all of this is just going to be a waste. It's all going to be a waste. The 3 years of drafts that we had the past few years, and Xavier Howard still doesn't have a contract. He needs to get signed this offseason. I know that's kind of fallen by the wayside with the draft now, but I mean, that's super important, and they got plenty of cap space, so there's really no excuse, but it hasn't happened. I just, honestly, look, I got to keep it real with y'all. I don't have a lot of confidence that they're doing the right things. Throughout all of the offseason so far in free agency, the majority of the things that they did, I disagreed with. Come yesterday, the end of yesterday, I was feeling better about it. I was like, okay, I can go with this. And then today they turn around and just do the most, like, insane, ridiculous things. So anyway, getting back, because I don't think I finished my point about the 3 things that could happen with Josh Rosen. So if I pointed out the problems that could arise if he ends up being your guy. I mean, overall, I suppose that would be a net gain, because you still have him cheap for the next 3 years. But why have Ryan Fitzpatrick? You're wasting money there, and then you're wasting those other 2 guys that you have. The cheap young guys that that you have. They're cheaper than he is. And that you could develop and so on and so forth. You can't take a quarterback in this draft now because it would be waste of draft capital. And then what happens next year if we do end up sucking and then take a quarterback high? So then what about Josh Rosen if he is your guy, right? Or he could be a complete flop and then he's a total waste. Or what was there was a God damn it, I can't remember the third option, but or maybe I said it, I don't know. Me, I tend to go off on all these side points. It all loops together eventually. But look, man, it's not gonna add up to success now. It's not gonna add up to success over the next few years, and then we're just gonna end up in this same position. And unfortunately, look, I mean, and again, a lot of that is my evaluation of these things that they are doing, in my perspective. And clearly, I'm not, I'm not a coach. I'm not, I'm not a staff member there. I don't have any like insight in that way. I'm just a dude that watches, that loves the team, and does the best I can with the information I have. But when you put all the information and the data together, and you put things into full context. So the fact that Arizona was so willing to get rid of Josh Rosen, and Gase didn't want him, and he's a coach who's well known for developing quarterbacks. That's like his specialty. And Chris Greer has done some good things, but he's also had some big misses, in the scouting department. And so, just because I mean, who knows? It still has to play out, but Gase could have been right in that situation. Maybe Josh Rosen is not worth it. And you know what? In the willingness of the Cardinals to get rid of him after 1 year, after just taking him 10th overall, like that says a lot, right? So, all of that information together, it doesn't add up to good things. And so with the different scenarios that could play out with him, whether he becomes the dude or well, I think the three scenarios had to involve if he becomes a dude, well, are you then going to take a quarterback high next year? Are you not? If you do, well, then what about Josh Rosen? Then he's, whatever. Like, it's a complete and utter mess and chaos. And it's, like I said, man, damn it. Even if they don't win a game for the next 3 years, I'm going to be the only motherfucker out here that's going to be like, yep, he's got a guaranteed 5-year contract. Give it to him. Everybody was like, this is our guy. This is our guy. So, okay, give him the time. You gave him the guaranteed contract. Let him fucking run it out. But I don't see things being very successful for the next few years. And when they're not, if they're not, everybody is going to jump ship. And they are going to start having, major panic attacks and getting triggered and need safe spaces, and then want everybody and their mother fired again, and another full reset for what? Right? So, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, God damn it. We still have another day of the draft. I mean, it's the fucking ass end, but, we'll see what they do. It just like... And I hate to do this because I try and find the bright sides and be positive, and I came away yesterday feeling all right, and then they made sure to find a way to completely 180 reverse step and rip that away. I mean, I know a lot of people are super excited about this, and like I said, a lot of people are super focused on next year, and we have 14 picks, but I mean, that's next year. And from my perspective, they're just tragically blundering their way through this whole first, few months of the tenure of this regime. So I don't know, that's, my perspective. And so that's what it is. But I gave you guys, all the facts of the trades, what everybody cost, I mean, I think we're supposed to have 120 million in cap space next year. But again, sign Xavier Howard. He's a top 3 corner for sure. Bottom line, just pay the fucking man. Quit being little fucking ass clowns about it. Stop playing this stupid fucking line about we need to have leverage and we need to make sure that we squeeze this dude for every fucking cent that we can. Fuck you and that dumbass bullshit. Just sign the fucking dude. If you care about actually having long-term sustainable success and you want to build this team the right way, fundamentally, you're gonna do it through the draft. He's a guy you drafted. He became a fucking star for you. Sign the fucking man. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm gonna get out of here. So, I hope you guys like my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter. I'm out. I'm here with you guys through all of it, no matter what. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.